My name is Leslie Notsi. I'm the technical director at the Lesotho Football Association. And I had an opportunity as a youngster to watch the Zambian legend, Godfrey Chitalu. As a technical director, I think the impact that he left, it's very, very huge, as he was one fantastic player for the Zambian national team. They came here with his team and they had a very good display by then, those years. And the way they played, the way he ran, the way he took on defenders, and the type of goals he scored, it left Basotho's, appreciating what type of a player he was. And I think it also, I still remember in my mind, that time everybody was calling his name. And even now, the people who are followers of the game, even now, they still cherish the moments they saw him, the moments even his team players brought into our game. So I believe the goals that he scored, truly they need to be considered by the authorities and FIFA, because he made a change. He brought light into the African game. So he should be, believe he should be given that moment that he deserves as one of our legends in the game in Africa.
You said you were 8 years old on January 23rd at the National Stadium in Maseru. No doubt watching with your family, your parents, and even now, nearly 50 years later, he still has an effect on you. Why is it? How come he was that special?
Because Lesotho then, they were just being introduced to the international football. So the Zambian team was one of the favorites, with the type of football they play. And they were playing one of the good teams in Lesotho by then. So everybody wanted to see the Zambian team. Everybody was also going there to support our local team. So it left a lot of memories, because in that game, it was a 2-2 draw, and he scored. I remember everybody was celebrating. Then when they kicked off the ball on the center, while everybody was jumping for joy, Chitalu had scored, he equalized. So because he was so quick and he could hit the ball very hard. So it's one of those things that the football followers in the country, they still appreciates what they brought, into the game. And there's so much that they left in terms of Basotho's, so we want to be like the Chitalus, we want to be like the Zambian team. So truly, it was good for me again when I was in Zambia as the coach of the senior national team in 2013. When we're there and everybody in the Zambian football fraternity, they were talking about those times of Chitalus coming into Lesotho. And also in 2017, when I was coaching the under-20s, I remember you invited me at one of the gala dinners, which was meant for the legends. So, and Godfrey Chitalu's name was always on the lips of some of the legends there. So I believe he has left a legacy for everyone to take on, to appreciate, to cherish, yes.
Now he scored 2 goals, so you saw both goals that he scored at the National Stadium. Could anybody else have done what he did?
Maybe yes, maybe no, but by then, because at the present moment football also now there's a lot of speed, into the game. But by then football was a little bit slower, but he was a different class. He was in a different class, because he was so quick, and the combination play they had, and quickly he could hit the ball running, he could hit the ball while running. So it was something that was like, wow, what is this guy doing? He's like a unique player. Yes.
So 2 weeks later, Magenta go to Zambia, Ndola, for the return leg.
Yeah.
Did you get to see that as well?
No,
or
no, we only got
on
the
TV
result.
or not?
No, by then TV was something not around in our country.
Now you hear the result,
Yes.
and you hear that Magenta's lost 9-0. Boniface Simitore scores one, Sanford Mvula scores another, and then you hear that Chitalu scores 7.
Yeah.
How do you react when you hear that?
I mean, the good thing is I've grown to be near most of the players who were playing for Majanja, yeah, like Sidwell Rangamandla, Sikotage, and even the goalkeeper who was, Blackhead, who was there. I was even speaking to him yesterday. So they had those stories of how the Zambian team really made them chase shadows there, the crowd behind the team, and they saying, that night they were even at some stage they thought the goal margin would be over 9, so yes, so that's how good the team was, and that's how good Godfrey Chitalu was, in terms of the way he engaged himself with his teammates. Yeah, so it's something that they still also say, wow, Godfrey Chitalu was a legend. He was one of the kind. Yes.
So even now, nearly 50 years later, they still talk of him as he was something special.
He was something special. Yes.
So you mentioned Black Cat, the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
What did he tell you about facing Chitalu?
Oh, you're saying, even under tight marking from their defenders, because they playing on him, but he could still give them problems. He could still, just create goal-scoring opportunities out of nothing, or at times when the ball is played behind defense, because of his quickness, he would just outrun them, and then he would just score that classy hard shot goal.
So, if I have this straight, the tactics of Magenta was man-mark Chitalu out of the game.
Yeah.
And he still scored 7.
Still scored. Yeah. And Magenta then was one of the best teams in the country. They had some good players. Yes.
So how did they grow from this? Because you'd imagine losing 9-0 and one player that you were trying to mark out of the game being the difference maker with 7 would affect you. How did it actually affect them? And how did it affect Lesotho football from that?
Teams wanted to emulate the Zambian way of playing, even us as youngsters, when we played there in the streets, we would also call ourselves Chidalu and stuff, because they had left, good memories. Yes, they were very good. I think hence everybody, appreciated the way they played. So they left a very positive impact within the football fraternity in the country.
You also, your first match in World Cup qualification was against Zambia, and it followed the same pattern as the Magenta match, in that there was a 0-0 draw in Maseru and then a 6-1 win in Ndola. Chitalu scored 2, a man called Joseph Maplanga got 1, and Fred Muina Sr. scored a hat-trick. Did you see that?
No. The ones I saw was here in Maseru. Hence now again, his name was still, in the people's mouth, that they always wanted to see him play, and he was always playing so well. They fell in love with him. They fell in love with the way he played. So he was amazing, and as usual, you see they are always humble people. The Zambian players. So they really they left a big impact to the football at large in the country.
It's been almost half a century since you first saw Chitalu, but he still seems to have an effect on you.
Yeah.
How important a player was he in your development as a player and in your philosophy when you finished playing?
Because of the quick play they had, and even during our training, fortunately enough I trained in Europe, in Germany, and in Hungary. So the main thing, the main focus is about the speed. So when I also look back and said, no, this is how those Zambians were playing, and everything has to be done, trying to manage speed, So it has left a lot of way of developing, our game, that everything should be done within a certain time limit, trying to also engage ourselves to the way the Zambians were playing. Even when I was now coaching the senior national team, for the World Cup, 2014 World Cup qualifiers, we played to a 1-1 draw here in Marseille. Then on the return match in Dola, we were thrashed 4-0. So it was a history repeating itself, but with very good football, with good support, with the manner they play, as a unit. So I think the Zambians football has always been encouraging people around who appreciates football.
Almost 50 years ago, on the 23rd of January 1972, you were there to see it. There was a 2-2 draw between Magenta and Cowboy Warriors. Godfrey Chitalu scored 2 goals in that leg, and 7 2 weeks later in a 9-0 win. CAF have acknowledged the 9-0 win, but they still have not yet acknowledged that Chitalu scored twice in Maseru and 7 in Ndola to make 9 in total. So it's 9 for the tie and 7 for the main match for the leg in Ndola. And the CAF has actually acknowledged Kabwe Warriors' 9-0 win, but not yet Chitalu's 7. How do you feel about that?
I think it should be looked into. I also feel like that he deserves to be recognized. His goals needs to be recognized by the authorities, because he was consistent, not only in that game, in that tie, home and away, but he was consistently scoring goals. So I believe the number of goals that he had scored needs to be looked into, and people should know about them, should be acknowledged and appreciated, that he was one of the best African players that Zambia ever produced.
Okay, thank you on that.